Jamaica joins the international community in celebrating World Water Day. The United Nations focus is water and energy, and it's clear to see why. Water is an important source for generating energy, while energy is important for treating, pumping, and transporting water to people. JIS supports the message. So today we're exploring the management of water resources and a related issue, drought mitigation. Hi, I'm Adrian Atkinson. Another topical issue of national importance, the Jamaica Logistics Hub, is also on our radar. You won't want to miss those and all the other things we've got lined up for you. Please stick around.
It keeps our bodies working, our food nutritious, our living and working spaces clean, and our lives comfortable. Water, the most precious resource necessary for the sustenance of life on our planet. Don't waste it. Let's conserve on this critical commodity. In the house, invest in storage containers and buckets. Take quick showers instead of long baths, and invest in water-efficient shower heads, toilets, and faucets. You may also want to consider one-pot meals and cooking methods that don't require much water. You could also wash fruits and vegetables in a bowl and reuse the water on your plants or grass. When cleaning dishes, fill both sinks and use one for washing and the other for rinsing. The leftover water can be used to wash off the concrete or asphalt in your yard. If you must wash your car at home, aim for once a fortnight and use a bucket to do the washing instead of running the hose. Don't delay. Start your water conservation practices today.
Refreshing, safe, clean drinking water. It's vital to life. Jamaica is known as the land of wood and water, which would suggest we've got no shortage of the precious commodity, right? Well, natural resources might run abundant, but getting sufficient supplies for human consumption and use is sometimes challenging. What makes the difference? Our water management practices.
When it rains, it pours. The rainy season usually brings an abundance of the precious commodity, filling rivers and underground aquifers. But although the sources might be there, making water available on demand depends on how well those sources are managed and protected. Some 84% of the water we use comes from groundwater stored in underground aquifers. The Water Resources Authority is the agency of the Ministry of Water and Housing, which has the primary role of protecting, conserving, and allocating water for use from these sources. And in carrying out these functions, it collects data on water quality as well as groundwater levels across the island.
We are maintaining our allocations in keeping with the assessments that we have done. It's just like a checkbook. You balance your checkbook, you know how much money is going in, how much is coming out, and you want to keep a certain balance inside it that we have to keep for certain reasons.
This process is to ensure that we have a regular supply of water flowing through our taps. That balancing act depends largely on an important sequence of events called the water cycle. By transferring water from one reservoir to another, river to sea and to the atmosphere and back, water in our aquifers are replenished. But Mother Nature doesn't always cooperate. An increase in temperature is likely to mean less rainfall, which would then force the authority to lean more heavily on underground sources such as wells. Problems like prolonged periods of drought and seawater intrusion in reservoirs along coastal areas, limiting the availability of clean, fresh water. One solution: conservation. And that's where you come in. While the Water Resources Authority manages and protects water sources, each of us has a role to play in managing the water we use. At home, school, or in places of business, water conservation is everybody's business. While the supplier or utility company focuses on efficient transmission and distribution, consumers must also help. And in helping to conserve on water, we help ourselves. Use less, pay less. Besides conservation, there are steps consumers can take to rein in water usage. Another solution: low flush toilets.
Which basically gives you a very, like 1 gallon of water to flush, compared to like 4 or 5 gallons from a regular sized toilet. Urinals are also being made with 1 liter per flush. So you can see that, and there are automatic eyes on them, that once you step back it flushes and stops.
Then there are those basic tips that govern regular routines. Not running the tap while you brush your teeth, using pressure shower heads and aerators to save water, filling up your kitchen sink to wash dishes rather than washing them under a flowing tap. Taps like these stop automatically in seconds after you turn them on. And then there are other measures.
Reuse of the grey water that comes out of your bathroom or your sink connected to the gully basin and puts it out on your lawn or grassy area. You can recycle that water.
Leaking pipes are a no-no and a sure way of depriving others of the precious commodity. In addition to plugging those leaks, consider making use of excess rainfall. Collect rainwater and store for general use, as well as to augment regular supplies.
We are applying that to some schools that we're working with rural water supply with, and with the Food and Agricultural Organization in looking at the use of rainwater harvesting for irrigation purposes.
Beyond steps to use water more efficiently is the important task of ensuring that this precious resource is not polluted.
We try to be a little bit proactive in working with NEPA, the National Environment and Planning Agency, as part of the Technical Review Committee when developments come in. We try to reduce the impacts on water resources to make sure that the sewage system that puts in don't impact on water resources, that runoff from certain areas don't get into the aquifers and contaminate the aquifers.
And while the authority does its part, we must ensure that our actions do not put our water supplies at risk. Sinkholes lead directly into aquifers and should therefore never be blocked or used as garbage dumps.
They can report incidences where they may see pollution occurring or people having discharges. For instance, if cesspool emptiers are discharging somewhere where they shouldn't be and it could impact on water resources, they can call in and make a report.
Think about it. What would life be like without sufficient good quality water? Protecting and conserving our water is everybody's business.
We are still in that period of the year where we get less rainfall and some of us may experience drought conditions. But if we are aware and prepare, those conditions can be reduced or avoided. Watch this.
We get most of our annual rainfall during the May to June and October to November months. Periods when water is in abundance. But at other times, agriculture faces seasonal but extensive drought.
It's terrible when you have drought, man. It's terrible.
Farmers like Mr. Campbell, who know the horror of drought, reach for solutions. And a good one is to store excess water from the rainy months for the dry season. Harvesting water requires some investment. These include putting in catchment tanks or ponds.
Right here we have a typical pond that is used to harness rainwater. It is dug using a backhoe or other machinery, and it is then lined with this plastic material that is called a pond liner, which then keeps the water in place and it holds it there until you're ready to use it for your irrigation purposes or whatever other purpose you may need.
In this model, rainwater collected from the roof of this greenhouse using a gutter is emptied into the pond, then pumped into an elevated tank, from where gravity feeds it to the plants in the greenhouse. Water harvesting for this South Manchester farmer is quite different.
It's like how I construct a little bobby here now. That catchment water go down in the tank. When the dry time, we have a lot of problem with the water system. So we have to construct the tank, that you have the water we can serve it. That when the drought time come, you have the water when the rainy season come. you full back up, you catch water.
Tyrone, who farms in a hilly area, collects the rainfall from the roof of his house into a tank built of stone and concrete. He then pipes the water into his field, where he irrigates using the drip system.
With a tank, you have limited water. So the drip system doesn't use the water all that hard. It doesn't distribute the water to the plant at a heavy rate. So using the drip in our area is one of the best methods because it uses less water, but it's very effective. Based on the amount of water inside the tank, I can use gravity feed. But whenever it goes down lower, I use a pump system. But I have various means that I use. I can use the air tank, that you also use gravity from that as well. So I use both systems depending on the depth or the height of the water.
Agricultural experts will tell you the size of the water harvester you choose to put in will depend on your preference and budget. In the end, you'd surely be saving on the cost of water and meet the important objective of improved production by reducing the impact of drought.
There are times that you don't definitely have to use water because your nursery will be ready during the rain time, so you plant during that time. So you always try to have your things set up that time that you can have your nursery ready for the rainfall and all of that.
The dry mulching technique has been proved effective in managing drought risks. It's a kind of farming that helps retain soil water in the ground.
What you do, like after mowing out your crop and all of that, like for instance this sweet pepper now, after mowing it, you'll cut the grass. During the whole planting phase, you'll cut the grass and allow it to dry. After mowing, you'll go through and you'll pat down the land. That helps to hold the moisture inside of the land. And for me, I can say it works.
Farmers who plant crops with higher levels of tolerance to heat are better able to deal with heat-related constraints during drought. Research and breeding of drought-tolerant crops has therefore been an area of focus in the Ministry of Agriculture. Farmers being provided with drought-tolerant crops are able to build a resilient system that gives enhanced crop yields under high temperatures. This is where we have to leave you for now. Remember, disasters do happen. Be prepared. Until next time, take care.
The Jamaica Logistics Hub is widely considered an economic game changer for Jamaica, one that is bringing huge private sector investment and jobs, some of which never before existed in Jamaica. But what are these jobs and how can you benefit? We have some answers in this feature.
Transnational corporations are seeking more cost-effective ways of doing business. The integration of shipping and logistics hubs with industrial zones is evolving as the less expensive new mode of moving products to consumers, and Jamaica is establishing itself as the fourth node in the global chain.
We're talking about a concentration of entities engaged in global commerce using our transportation infrastructure.
And creating more avenues for Jamaicans to access high skill level, globally competitive, lucrative employment options. Jamaica's Logistics Hub initiative provides the local business sector with a near-shore distribution advantage, a base for generating enormous cargo flows, either as raw material, intermediate or finished goods, to the world's largest consumer markets.
What we offer is a shorter distance to market. We offer it at a lower cost. So instead of somebody ordering something, a manufacturer, a business, or even a final consumer, ordering something from China, and it takes 3 weeks to get here. If the goods are stockpiled in Jamaica, it can take 1 or 2 days. So it's things like that that we are demonstrating to businesses, to companies, and they are taking up that value proposition that Jamaica offers.
The new mode of operation creates more jobs both at the ports and the connecting industrial zones.
Cargo will come out of the port into the economic zones and undergo some form of transformation. That provides work for people in the assembly, it provides work for the technicians, even just putting in manuals in the appropriate language when the camera is shipped out. And that is where you have more economic benefit filtering into the economy.
Through agencies such as JAMPRO, the government has been attracting companies to set up shop in special economic zones. 16 zones have been identified, and as discussions advance with investors, work has started for the build-out of some infrastructure. It begins with the build-out of the Caymanas Economic Zone, spanning some 200 acres of production space in Phase 1 and an additional 1,500 acres of production space in Phase 2. Coupled with the Portland Bight Economic Zone, it will set the stage for thousands of new jobs, initially in construction-related tasks and later in a range of technical, manufacturing, administrative and related posts.
That is where the companies will require financial services, accounting services, legal services. They're required to purchase electricity, water. All of those economic activities benefit country, it provides employment.
While people will be working in the industrial zones, assembling or manufacturing products, those products will need to be transported, and that opens up work opportunities for drivers and trucking firms. The special economic zones are replacing what we previously knew as free zones and will be the heart and soul of Jamaica's logistics hub. Just as businesses in these zones will need to meet industrial standards, so too will the workforce.
The other hubs that exist across the world, they have zero unemployment. When you have a situation where everybody is employed, crime goes down. Other social ills are removed. The range of industries which we are targeting, biotechnology, medical devices, paper processing. These industries never existed in Jamaica.
These globally competitive companies are looking for engineers, technicians, value-added providers, and others with internationally competitive skills and technological competencies. Jamaicans must, if they haven't already, quickly begin the process of getting international certification to fill the new job openings.
The thing is, in conjunction with training, we have to ensure that the training is certified to international standards.
The Caribbean Maritime Institute, CMI, with its School of Advanced Skill, is working with the local universities to train as many persons as possible and provide the required international certification to meet the demands. The CMI is also offering a special training course dubbed Logistics 101 to increase the public's understanding of the hub initiative. This is accessible when groups or organizations make a request.
So people can go to the Ministry of Industry, Investment and Commerce website, the Logistics Hub Task Force, and you can register for this course. Equally, there'll be a link to the Caribbean Maritime Institute website. So you can go there and register, and you can request the course. As long as you have a cohort, we'll take it to you.
The doors of opportunities are open for Jamaicans to seize the moment to build economic success. To capitalize, local entrepreneurs and job seekers must be prepared and ready, globally competitive for Jamaica's changing industrial landscape.
On the board this week, the Jamaica Cultural Development Commission, JCDC, is inviting members of the public to submit entries for its Festival of Foods competition. The Festival of Foods competition is open to individuals, schools, churches, universities, and community groups. Entries are being accepted in the categories including main dishes, pastries, beverages, and desserts, among others. Deadline for entries for the Festival of Foods competition is Friday, March 28. Get your entry forms and guidelines now online at jcdc.gov.jm, at the JCDC main office, 3 to 5 Phoenix Avenue, Kingston 10, and at all JCDC parish offices island-wide. Come run for health. and walk for life at the Chapelton Police Youth Club 5K Run Walk on Sunday, April 20. Make it a date for this event. Proceeds in aid of an education fund for children of the community and its environs. Join the Maranatha Gospel Hall Music Ministry for its sing-along at the Maranatha Gospel Hall, 7 Deanery Road, Kingston, on Sunday, March 30. Come for an evening of worship with the Psalms, starting time 6 p.m. Send us your events for broadcast on the JIS Community Notice Board. Call 922-868-022 or send an email to cbishop@jis.gov.jm.
Conserving water not only allows what we have in store to serve us longer, but it also lessens how much we have to spend for the commodity. So what are the ways to conserve? We went out the road for some answers.
Fix your pipes, don't let them leak, and recycle, reuse the water.
Make sure that the pipes are not leaking and things like that. And you use what you want, what the amount you want to use. Okay? And that you see that the children them don't waste it.
What I've stopped doing is I'm beginning to recognize that my teeth is just as clean if I don't keep the pipe running while I'm brushing. And I try my best, like if you're somebody who would wash twice a week or 3 times for the week, you try and see if you can consolidate and just do one wash. It's not only conservation, but it is economically the sensible thing to do.
I don't keep the water running while I'm brushing my teeth, stuff like that, yes. In the kitchen while I'm washing plates, I make sure I catch water on one side.
Try to use less unnecessary usage, like stuff that we don't really need that excess of water to do. And at the times when we're in the shower, like taking a bath and we're singing and things, stuff like that, can cut out that as well and try to do what we're doing more quicker, be more efficient.
Make sure the tap is properly turned off and turn off the tank as well sometimes when it's full. And when you're bathing, don't keep the water running when you're soaping up until you're ready to wash off.
And now for a recap of our top news stories of the week.
Hi there, I'm Simone Wolf with your JIS News of the Week. The Executive Board of the International Monetary Fund, the IMF, approved a $71.4 million drawdown for Jamaica on Wednesday as a result of passing all targets for the October to December quarter of 2013. This brings total disbursements under the extended fund facility to $345.8 million. In making the announcement, the IMF said Jamaica's program implementation had remained strong, the execution of the budget was broadly on track, but the economy remained fragile. Meanwhile, one of the most critical structural benchmarks for the next review period under the IMF program was met when the House of Representatives passed fiscal rules legislation on Tuesday. Fiscal rule tightens the management of government expenditure, debt, and the budgetary deficit. To bring it into force, Parliament needed to pass amendments to the Fiscal Administration and Audit Act and the Public Bodies Management and Accountability Act.
They represent a commitment that to be implemented, to be passed into law before March 31st of this year. Because the international community are not convinced that we collectively have the fiscal discipline to prevent the future run-up of our debt. We need to prove them wrong. The rules alone won't guarantee it, but they represent the passage of these enhancements in the legislation will at least demonstrate that we recognize that there's a problem and that we are committed to a solution.
The Ministry of Transport, Works and Housing, the National Works Agency, Jamaica Emergency Employment Program, and China Harbour Engineering Company this week signed a $630 million contract for road works in the island. It represents the first tranche of the $50 million that will be spent as part of the Jeep component of the Major Infrastructure Development Program, MIDP.
And it will be spent on roads, retaining walls, drains, and sidewalk.
While China Harbour is the main contractor for the $353 million MIDP, small contractors will be hired to handle the Jeep component.
As we go forward into our third year of Jeep, we are looking forward to creating additional employment, especially for those who are unemployed or underemployed.
Western Jamaica is in line to get a highly specialized general hospital that will significantly advance Jamaica's drive to develop health tourism. The 22-bed facility will be built through a $20 million investment by Spanish firm Hospiten Group.
The decision by the Hospiten Group to commence construction of this highly specialized general hospital in the heart of Jamaica's tourism industry comes at a time of improving economic stability, supported by positive ratings by the international rating agencies. This investment represents a tangible outcome of Jamaica's tourism master plan and the work of successive governments.
The primary target market for the hospital will be tourists in Montego Bay, Ocho Rios and Negril, but locals will also be welcomed at the health facility. 300 jobs are to be created in the construction phase, which should begin shortly and be completed by the second half of 2015. In other tourism news, Jamaica and other Caribbean countries are celebrating a victory in their fight to make travel from the United Kingdom to the Caribbean cheaper. The countries had been lobbying to lower the air passenger duty (APD) rate for travel from the United Kingdom to the region, asking that it be the same as flights to the United States. British Chancellor of the Exchequer George Osborne has announced the axing of the contentious APD bands to be replaced by a simplified two-band system. Tourism and Entertainment Minister Dr. Wickham McNeil has welcomed the change. More than 40,000 students completed the two-day Grade 6 Achievement Test for 2014 this Thursday and Friday. On the first morning of the exams, Education Minister Reverend Ronald Thwaites spoke with GSAT students at 3 corporate area schools and encouraged them to remain calm. He assured the youngsters that they would all be placed in good schools at the end of the process.
Give thanks that all of you are going to go on to a school where you can get good secondary education. Hear me? Yes. Why are you worried, fellas? Huh? You want to make sure now that everybody concentrates and does as well as possible.
And finally, emergency personnel made considerable progress this week in controlling and confining the tire fire that has been burning at the Riverton City disposal site since last Sunday. A significant section of the facility that was on fire was covered with soil to minimize the risk of further spread and to suppress residual bouts of smoke. Led by the Jamaica Fire Brigade, 24-hour operational presence is being maintained at the location and steps are being taken to address air quality. Still, the area remains off limits for non-emergency response activities. And those were some of the stories making news this week. I'm Simone Wolf.
This is where we close Jamaica Magazine for today. Be sure to join us when we return tomorrow with more useful information. Tell us what you thought of the show. Send an email to jamaicamagazine@jis.gov.jm or hit us up on Twitter @JISNews. And our website, jis.gov.jm, remains a constant portal for the very latest government information. On behalf of the entire team here at the JIS, I'm Adrian Atkinson, reminding you to eat well, exercise regularly, get some rest, and make every day a productive one.
This has been a production of the Jamaica Information Service, the voice of Jamaica.